It's Monday, September 11. In the headlines, debate on students' dress and grooming continues. In business news, we have your usual market updates and more. Regionally, in Trinidad and Tobago, downward COVID-19 trend continues. Internationally, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un reportedly heading to Russia to meet President Putin. And in sports, Reggae Boys win against Honduras. This is the news on PBCJamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Education Minister Favour Williams is encouraging schools and other stakeholders to discuss the draft policy on dress and grooming. She says there are various facilities available for them to send their feedback. The policy was recently published on the ministry's website for stakeholders to provide feedback. Minister Williams addressed the matter at a recent post-cabinet press brief.
Remember that this policy was in the consultative process all during the last school year. We're just making a final push to ensure that as many persons as possible see it.
The draft policy is a general guide for schools and establishes a framework for treating with dress and grooming, taking into consideration cultural identity, climate, the socioeconomic situations of parents, and the aims of educational institutions. The Education and Youth Minister says the policy should not be enforced through denying access to lessons.
We again are saying to our principals, you cannot, you should not. It is not a policy of the government or of the Ministry of Education to lock out or send home kids who show up and they're not in compliance 100%. There are other ways. We have to change behavior. You have to ensure as school leaders you're consultative in all that you do, so you get higher buy-in from parents who can monitor and ensure that their children show up. We have in-school activities that students can do. There may be detention or something like that, but there are other ways.
Minister Williams says the age-old practice of denying access to education as punishment is not only counterproductive but also illegal. She says barring students from schools contravenes Article 28 of the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child, to which Jamaica is a signatory. The Education Act 1965, as well as the 2004 Child Care and Protection Act, which is built on the best interest principle, and also states that school leaders and teachers are acting in loco parentis, that is, acting in place of a parent. School administrators are being encouraged to take proactive measures to ensure the safety and well-being of students and staff as the soaring temperatures persist. The Ministry of Education and Youth, in a bulletin, recommended several heat safety protocols that are to be implemented based on individual school circumstances. These include the development of guidelines for outdoor activities and sports during hot weather by adjusting school schedules to minimize such events during the hottest parts of the day or rescheduling to cooler times. Students and staff should have access to shaded areas where possible, and every effort should be made to eliminate the need to have students stand in the sun for long periods, such as for General Assembly. Administrators should ensure that students and staff have access to clean and safe drinking water, encourage regular water breaks, and educate students about the importance of staying hydrated. As such, water storage facilities must be checked regularly, water response protocols reactivated, water stock at the canteen or tuck shop bolstered, hydration facilities increased where possible, and students should be asked to take water to school. The provision of professional development opportunities for teachers and staff on heat safety and how to adapt their teaching practices during hot weather is also recommended. Key stakeholders are to be trained to recognize the signs of heat-related illnesses such as heat exhaustion and heat stroke. More Jamaicans will become beneficiaries of the new social housing program. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says more money is being budgeted for the program and there will be greater emphasis on the pace at which the homes are completed, so Jamaicans who have been identified as beneficiaries can get their homes much more quickly. The Prime Minister explained that expanding the pool of contractors is a pivotal step toward achieving the housing goals of the government. He says his government is committed to transforming Jamaican lives through housing opportunities and will continue to implement plans and programs to improve Jamaica. The Prime Minister was speaking on Friday during a home handover in West Portland. He said an incubator training program tailored for local contractors would be established to increase the delivery of homes. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has called for a high-level probe into the attack on Nationwide News Network. Last Friday, employees at the media house were rattled after a gunman fired 3 shots into the parking lot at the entity. No one was physically harmed in the attack. Speaking at a gospel concert on the weekend, Mr. Holness declared that such an incident should not be tolerated, saying the attack was viewed with grave concern. He's quoted saying, "It cannot be that in Jamaica today there could be any violent attack on our press. That is not to be tolerated in any way," end quote. He added, quote, "No political party should be associated with that," end quote. Time now for a hurricane tip.
Be sure to understand the hurricane warning system. That is the 3 phases: alert, watch, and warning. Hurricane alerts are given when weather conditions, sustained winds of 74 miles per hour or greater, are expected somewhere within the region. A hurricane watch means that hurricane conditions, sustained winds of 74 miles per hour or higher, are possible within the specified area. A hurricane watch is issued 48 hours in advance of the anticipated onset of tropical storm force winds in any area. During a hurricane watch, prepare your home and review your plan for evacuation in case a hurricane or tropical storm warning is issued. Listen closely to instructions from local officials.
It's time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Welcome to the Business Report. I'm Danita Rodney. This week's Young Boss is the man you go to for your latest and most up-to-date building and construction needs. Let's meet Aquis Group CEO Adrian Bradford.
Hi, my name is Adrian Bradford, CEO of Aquis Group and Managing Director of BRL Labs Limited. Well, I offer a full-service construction company, so from the purchase of land, development of the property, renovations of property, and it's not limited just to construction. So if you want me to build a house or apartment or hotel, I can do so. Or if you want me to just consult, give you cost information, how to manage your site, how to manage your deliverables, we can do that as well. So it's a full range of services that really have no limitations. So the difference between myself and Bob the Builder, all these random guys that just think they can build, is I actually studied for it. So I went to the University of Technology, I studied quantity surveying, so I'm a QS by profession. And then I also went to Barbados, where I studied project management and evaluation, so I can actually do the process of building. Now, construction is a family business for me. I grew up with my father doing landscape contracting, concrete testing, various hotel projects, and then I left University of Technology and I traveled throughout the Caribbean, where I learned various trades and technical skills. So I'm a bit more equipped to give advice and to actually do than a lot of the persons that grew up and said, I can mix some cement, so I'm a contractor. Pretty good. Most of my customers actually are happy that I'm very honest and open. So I'm sometimes even talk myself out of business because I will tell you if it makes no sense, don't spend your money there. So my customers are generally very happy with me. I'm very straightforward with them, which is kind of rare in this kind of environment. Everybody just wants to make a dollar, but for me, your name is more important than the revenue that you could get from that one job. So, it helps. So this brings you back to the original statement, right? There are a lot of people that are claiming to be builders. So Jamaica, unfortunately, like everything else, we have the little bending of the law and the greasing of the palm and the friend here and there, which has reflected in our construction environment, right? So you have a lot of these apartment buildings that they're being zoned in residential areas that should not carry it. They're generally blocking out the view and causing public nuisances, but through friends and the links, they've been able to go. We don't do a lot of policing. So KSAC is one department. They really don't cover all and every nook and cranny, and everybody has a friend somewhere. So I think that's the biggest challenge in Jamaica. Hotel developments come to us to test their concrete. They come to us to test the soil to make sure everything is good and will stand up for 50 years, 60 years. The private man doesn't. So there's nothing that forces them to come and say, verify that this concrete strength is good enough, that it will withstand this hurricane, this seismic activity. They aren't doing that. So my biggest concern is in the smaller market, there aren't enough preventative measures put in place to ensure that we're solid for the future. So that again falls back on government. It's all about regulation. So we need more government bodies enforcing that we build a certain distance from the perimeter, from the road. You limit certain size buildings in certain communities, trying to preserve some of the the traditional kind of infrastructure. Challenges, just the new challenges. And for me, I like construction because it's just to do something different each time. So no job is really the same. All the challenges are different. And it's hard, but you always have that feeling when you finish and you look at something that you've built and you can say, wow, this really turned out great. Or, Jano, I learned some lesson here, so and this can't reach me again, but it's always something exciting. So my office is at 7 Ivory Green Crescent, that's near Crossroad. Online, it's Aqueous Group on Instagram. You can look for BR Labs Limited on Instagram, that's the other page for the concrete testing. And yeah, generally you could see me driving around somewhere in your neighborhood.
Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Friday, September 8th, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.45. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $113.99. The pound sterling traded for $195.43, and the euro sold for $169.20. In GSE trading, the GSE index advanced by over 1,820 points. The junior market index declined by over 9 points. The combined market index advanced by over 1,615 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by over 490 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 99 stocks, of which 43 advanced, 41 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited, and Caribbean Cement Company Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Variable Preference, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Apple Limited 7.75% preference shares. The overall volume leaders were Future Energy Source Company Limited and Mailpack Group Limited with over 2 million units, and Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Zero Securities traded. Zero Securities traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In regional business, for months, Trinidadian businesses have complained of a foreign currency shortage, but Guyana's Vice President, Dr. Barrett Jackdale, believes that Guyanese purchases are helping to ease those woes.
You mentioned since we are a big importer of Trinidadian goods, but that should serve them better, because if we import their goods, then they will earn, the payments are done in US dollars. So if it was the other way around, we would have probably had difficulty, our exporters, in getting paid here. And a couple of companies approached me and said that they were offered by Trinidadian companies to pay for their imports, that's Trinidadian imports, from Guyana in Trinidadian dollars, and they didn't want to be stuck with this currency.
In international business, Wall Street's main indexes ended slightly higher but were down for the week as investors worried about the interest rates and waited tentatively for upcoming U.S. inflation readings.
The Dow gained 0.2%. The S&P 500 gained just over 0.1%, while the Nasdaq edged up marginally. Investors have been worried about rising oil prices ahead of the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, for August due next week, as they seek signals about the Federal Reserve's future policy decisions on interest rates. According to Michael Landsberg, CEO and Chief Investment Officer of Landsberg Bennett Private Wealth Management, Fed Chair Jerome Powell and his team of policymakers aren't done yet.
I take Powell at his word. He wants to get inflation down to 2%. It's nowhere near there. In fact, actually, I think next week we're going to see another CPI that's going to be actually going the other direction. We're seeing the price of oil move higher, 20+%. West Texas Intermediate's up, high 80s. I think Brent was over 90. That's a huge component in CPI. I think CPI is going to be up. I don't necessarily know if they raise in September, but I think you're going to get at least one more raise because the job's not done.
Other data this week also fueled inflation fears, including stronger than expected services activity data and a fall in weekly jobless claims. Mixed comments from Fed officials have kept investors guessing. New York Fed President John Williams kept his options open, while Dallas Fed President Lori Logan said although she thought it could be appropriate to keep rates steady at the next meeting, more tightening might be needed.
In market data for oil prices edged lower after fresh Saudi and Russian crude output cuts had driven prices to 10-month highs last week. Brent crude fell 23 cents to $90.42 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude lost 46 cents to $87.05. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in Trinidad and Tobago, despite picking up one of the newest COVID-19 variants in June, Health Minister Terence Delsing says the XBB variant still continues to be the dominant one locally. However, the country has not seen any sustainable increase in cases for weeks. Sunil Lala has more.
Health Minister Terence Delsing says this country continues to see a downward turn in COVID-19 cases. The latest number of persons in a parallel healthcare system is now less than 24.
We have not seen in Trinidad and Tobago any sustainable increase in cases. Our cases over the past couple of weeks have actually come down. We are now at about 23 persons in our parallel healthcare system.
And with the emergence of the new variant known as Iris a few months ago, he noted it is not yet a variant of concern and also confirmed that this new variant was also picked up during testing.
The initial epidemiology from other countries suggests, whilst it may be a little more transmissible, it does not lead to any more severe disease. So we continue to monitor it. We have picked it up in samples in June 2023. But our dominant variant is still XB.
Meanwhile, Mr. Delsing said the ministry continues to monitor conjunctivitis cases referred to as red-eye, especially with the opening of the new academic year.
Whilst about a month ago, and that is when we put out the release, we were seeing a slight uptick. We are monitoring the school population especially to see what is happening. We are only at the end of the first week in school, so we will wait for data to come in.
And with regard to Mpox, he stated that there have been no additional cases since the 4th case in late July.
After the initial 4 cases, and I understand all 4 cases are fully recovered, bearing in mind Mpox is usually a very mild disease. We have had no 5th or 6th case, so we are static at 4 cases.
Sonolala, TTT News.
The Grenada National Reparations Committee says the focus of continued attempts to strengthen relations between Caribbean Community, CARICOM, and African Union countries should be direct airlift from the Caribbean to Africa.
The Grenada National Reparations Committee Chair, Ali Gill, says there is no better way for Africans on the continent and people of the Caribbean to reconnect than by flying regularly directly into each other's countries. He made the remarks on Thursday on the occasion of Africa CARICOM Day. Gill also cited cultural exchanges and economic cooperation as potential areas of mutual benefit for the Caribbean and Africa. He said both the Caribbean region, where the majority of the population is of African descent, and Africa itself are known for their exciting artistic and musical talent, and there is a natural synergy that can be built on. The partnership between the Caribbean community and the African continent holds immense potential for fostering cultural exchange, economic growth, and tourism development. Recognizing the shared history, cultural ties, and mutual interests, Dr. Carla N. Bennett, Secretary General of CARICOM, said CARICOM and Africa have embarked on a collaborative effort to promote travel between the two regions.
It is evident that this partnership between CARICOM and Africa is making progress in some of the priority areas to which heads committed at the first CARICOM Africa Summit. However, more work needs to be done to establish concrete and consistent connections between the community and Africa in several areas. These include cooperation in mass media and information sharing between both regions, establishing a CARICOM Africa Commission, increasing direct engagements between the people of our regions to enhance our appreciation of our history and our cultures, and improving our connectivity with convenient transportation links. We are preparing to sign the Memorandum of Understanding, which has already been agreed between the African Union Commission and the CARICOM Secretariat to institutionalize our collaboration. Through our cooperation, we are building on the strong and inspiring tradition of Pan-Africanism and facilitating the reconnection of the continent with the African diaspora, now designated by the AU as the 6th region of Africa.
She was addressing the celebration of Africa CARICOM Day, organized by the P.J. Patterson Institute for Africa, Caribbean Advocacy and the University of the West Indies, Mona. Cherry Blackman Stephen, JBN News.
News from Barbados. The Minister of Tourism of the Cayman Islands, Kenneth Bryan, remains upbeat about the benefits from the planned direct flights by Cayman Airlines linking the British territory and Barbados. Mr. Bryan, who is also the chairman of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, says the service has been welcomed, especially among citizens of the Eastern Caribbean who live in the Cayman Islands.
We get a certain percentage globally, but because we're the most attractive tourism region within the world, there's room for growth. So whenever one member grows, all of us grow together. In respect to the Cayman Islands, what benefits do we get? One, obviously there's the collective package of marketing that is normal and all the best practices, even though I think that we're doing quite well in the top end of being ahead of the game due to the many experiences and talent that we have here in the Cayman Islands. But we learn from that as well. Naturally, the people of the Cayman Islands want to ensure that it's beneficial for them, and vice versa, Barbados would want to know that it's beneficial for them. And I'm happy to say that we've expressed where the benefits are, and most people are positive about it, but the proof is in the pudding. So it's my job and Minister for Barbados Tourism to improve the opportunities that are beneficial. I'm really excited about this because it's outside of tourism. It's about that cultural connectivity. If we're going to be one Caribbean, the only how we can do that is if we visit each other and show the rest of the world that we are one Caribbean.
I believe in the power of the Caribbean brand, our shared, beautiful Caribbean sea, our culture, our history, and year-round warm weather position us as a global powerhouse in the tourism sector. However, our collective strengths lie in unity, and there's so much we could accomplish through collaboration.
In international news, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is reportedly leaving his country by train and is headed for Russia, where he is expected to hold a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin as soon as Tuesday. It will be Kim's first visit abroad in more than 4 years. Al Jazeera has the details.
This would be North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's first trip abroad since the COVID pandemic. He's likely headed to Russia's Far East, close to the North Korean border. News of his possible visit has reached residents in Vladivostok, where Kim met Russian President Vladimir Putin in 2019.
Both countries show teeth to the whole world and can stand for themselves, so there's something in common.
Putin is in Vladivostok to attend the Eastern Economic Forum, an event designed to promote foreign investment in Russia's Far East. When the two leaders met 4 years ago, Putin had offered to break the deadlock after North Korea's talks with the US on nuclear disarmament failed. US officials believe a meeting this time may include discussion of an arms deal.
If North Korea sells weapons to Moscow, this is going to be a problem for the United States as well as for Europe, because this would essentially try to be an effort by Moscow to balance some of the advantages that Ukraine has in terms of getting materiel, artillery, rockets.
North Korea is banned from exporting weapons under a UN Security Council resolution. There are also concerns North Korea may receive from the Russians sophisticated technology that could help it advance its nuclear weapons program. Russia and North Korea have drawn closer in recent months. In July, Sergei Shoigu visited Pyongyang, the first Russian defense minister to do so since the fall of the Soviet Union. Russia is also discussing holding joint military drills with North Korea. Analysts say the Kim-Putin meeting could be intended to send a message to the US and its allies.
With a bit of diplomacy, North Korea can be used as a tool to influence behavior of the United States, South Korea, and some other players, largely in regard to the Ukrainian conflict.
For North Korea, a potential arms deal with Russia would also make sense economically. Heavy flooding has worsened the impoverished country's food supply.
Two countries led by authoritarian rulers and under Western sanctions may seem like natural allies. But closer ties between Russia and North Korea may also serve to widen the divide in the international community, much like during the Cold War era. Florence Louis, Al Jazeera, Seoul.
In sports, Jamaica played to a 1-0 win over Honduras in their CONCACAF Nations League A Group B clash at the National Stadium on Friday. Reggae Boys head coach Amir Hallgrimsson has acknowledged that the team's performance needed to be better, but keeping a clean sheet is one of the positives taken from the game. Damari Gray 64th minute strike gave the Reggae Boys maximum points. The Jamaicans will oppose Haiti in their next group match on Tuesday, also at the National Stadium. Trinbago Knight Riders bagged a 7-wicket victory over the Jamaica Tallowers to go on top of the 2023 CPL T20 table.
Sent into bat, the Tallowers reached 154 for 8 in their 20. Ahmad Wasim top scored with 62 as his half-turn anchored the Tallowers' innings. TKR bowlers Ali Khan and Sunil Narain did the most damage with figures of 3 for 27 and 2 for 29 respectively. The home side's chase was just what the capacity Brian Lara Cricket Academy came to see. Nicholas Pooran plundered a 35-ball 54 at number 3. Opener Martin Guptill stayed for the whole innings, hitting 53 off 45. The last run of his knock closing out a classy win for the home side in 17.2 overs.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.